for example, one of the things I fear is comfort. One of the biggest enemies for us trying to help people on this call is they're good, right? They're part of a 2-income family. They're good. I can give you 30 examples that are good. Loving relationship, good kid. Like they've got their shit together. They don't need a Lamborghini or a Mercedes or a second house to fulfill their insecurities. They're plenty secure. They make enough money. Their savings, they're good. The problem is technology is either your best friend or your enemy, right? It's like a big wave for a surfer, right? Either you're gonna grab the surfboard and ride it and it's gonna be epic, or it's gonna get you, right? And so first, there's many different answers to your question. One is getting the people that are complacent, understanding that people are coming for them. That last year was great, the year before was great, next year is great. It's all looking great until somebody invents an Uber. I spoke at the National Black Car and Taxi Convention the year Uber launched, and I was an investor. And it was just kind of like, it lined up. I wasn't speaking as the investor of Uber. I was speaking as Garyvee because I wrote this orange book about customer service and it went really well. I just invested in Uber and I could see Uber was winning. And I'm on stage and I'm like, by the way, I did my spiel, but I'm like, by the way, anybody raise your hand if you've seen Uber? And like some people in LA and SF and New York raise their hand, not the whole room. And I went into a 5-minute spiel of like, hey, this might be a problem. When I tell you they laughed at me, the same way, Dawn, that somebody right now, when I say somebody's coming to get you, and someone's sitting there and saying, I've been dominating Short Hills, New Jersey, or Beverly Hills, or Topeka, Kansas for 20 years. Gary, I love you. You're entertaining. I get it, but not for me. 20 years, 59 clients who've always been with me, 3rd generation families. I got the grandkid now. Not for me, Gary. And they don't realize that like, you've got to continue to future-proof your business with new technology because you can get caught. And I want to remind people here that a lot of you built your businesses by taking market share from the person that you out-innovated with Google AdWords, a website, direct mail, working harder by hustling in the local area, innovating. Like you did that and somebody can do that to you. And so like, just don't chill, right? And Denise is right. Into it with AI,
and they're already making moves. They're already doing other things that we're all seeing as the email comes in. You're like, what are they doing now? And it's like, well, just stay ahead of them. We can stay ahead of them.
And honestly, it's probably going to be hard to stay ahead of big tech companies. Just staying a hair more contemporary and on it than a lull state will service people well here. Right? Just sending an email to all your clients to talk about doing a Zoom like this with all of them about how to use AI. That's like left field. Let me give you a weird strategy, Dawn. Send an email to all your clients saying, I'm doing a Google Hangout. And now this is after 3, 4, 6 months of playing with AI yourself because you can't talk out of your ass. For all my clients, I'm just doing a little 5 minutes, literally 6:15 to 6:45, 30 minutes on some fun things about AI. I think we all know AI is out there. I'll show you what I've been thinking about. That 30 minutes for the 10% of your clients that show up to the Zoom, where you really just talk about AI in general, not from a CPA standpoint, will make every one of your clients that got that email subconsciously understand that you're staying ahead, thus rendering them not to consider to move from you. I do think Gen Z and Gen Alpha for sure, which is a little further away, but there's some youngsters on this call. But Gen Z is showing very clear indication that they're not going to use their parents' accountant will. Like they're very, 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 very cynical to their parents' generation. There is a generation war of boomer, millennial versus Gen Z, and it's manifesting as a ha 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 on TikTok, but it's showing up in business results. We're seeing the lowest conversion of generational service providing. And it's a big fear for me for a lot of people here. And I hate this generational stuff. One of the best, please can we just stop saying Gen Z's, like every person's different. Like generalization of generations is hurting us. Look, I think this goes back to what I was alluding to, Logan. I really do want people here to make 3 or 4 or 5 TikToks describing CPA 101 or taxes 101. I think relevance is going to matter. And I know that people are like, wait a minute, I'm not making a TikTok. I'm like, cool, but go put in CPA hashtag CPA or hashtag taxes. Search that on TikTok right now. You'll be blown away. And you don't have to dance and you don't have to make a skit. You can just talk real facts. This is a big one for a lot of people. Gen Z is using TikTok as a search engine over Google in a real way. And a lot of you get your business from Google. Things are changing. And so, I really, really, really want to make sure that especially for the people here who plan on doing business for the next 20, 30 years, even 10, that they're starting to get to a place where the requirement of making a little bit of content in these platforms really matters, because they're you don't even need the content. It's similar to what I just said earlier, creating a TikTok and making 10 videos, just having it. When Gen Z client looks at you and looks for your TikTok and sees that you're there, there's a level of confidence that you understand, because they're asking questions and they're thinking about it differently, and they don't want to pay your fees if they can get around it. And Intuit with AI or other things is going to be a thing. And so you're going to have to win on people skills like you always have. And I think relevance is going to matter. And I think a little bit of content on TikTok will go a long way for a lot of people here future-proofing their business. Doesn't have to go viral. You just have to show that you do it. YouTube Shorts is a secret weapon for everybody here, because YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world and the biggest when it comes to accounting and taxes, because most people's reading comprehension isn't strong enough to read the long form content that's out there. So a lot of people are going to YouTube to watch videos and listen to information on making decisions. YouTube Shorts is short form video similar to TikTok and Instagram, but if you title it based on search queries, so you go and look on Google Trends or on Google to see what people type for, how do I do so you make a video on some new tax law and that's your video, but you title the video, even though it's not actually what's in the video, you title it, how to do my taxes in 2024, because that's how it indexes on on YouTube for search. So look, this, even for someone like me who's an advanced businessman, I am not going to stay up to date on every tax law. Most people know nothing about what you guys do for a living. Showing confidence or information to people is the quickest way to get their business. And so for the advanced group here, YouTube Shorts, even more than TikTok or Instagram, because people use YouTube to search, is a huge, huge opportunity and something people should be looking at. The other one is LinkedIn. I can't express, especially for you three panelists, I don't know where you're at on your career on this, like 2-3 posts a day. And I know that's like a daunting number, but like, as Zach said, what if you freeze up on video? Well, then talk. Like, show a tax return, show your tax return, video it, and talk over it. You don't have to be in the video. Not everybody is as dynamic on film as Dawn B here, who explodes off the screen with the double fist pump. Not everyone has that, and that's okay. For people that can write their asses off but aren't good on video, then LinkedIn's a fucking mitzvah, right? Instagram, you can post something like a dollar bill, but then write 10 paragraphs, and that's the post. You can do a lot of, you can go do AI generated content and say, make me a picture that has $76,000 in pennies. Now you've got an image to reinforce what Matt wants people to know, which is you're wasting $76,000. Imagine that image of like a trillion fucking pennies, and then you write. So like, there's a lot of ways to be creative and do content, but that is required. If that is required, this is a content warfare.
This doesn't take a lot of time throughout your day, is what I'm hearing.
It takes a lot of time to make the mental jump that Dawn was talking about. And then it's what happened with me with working out. It's still the hardest, but it's a lot easier for me to go to the gym this morning and bang out my work than 10 years ago when like it was just death. I literally, there was, in that first year, I was like, I'm going to jump out the window and die. I do not want to go to the gym, right? And and then it just becomes like, right now, there's a lot of people with tech, SaaS, social, they're listening to me talk and they're like, no way. They're like, I'll let my niece do that or this, that. But once it becomes a habit and it doubles your business or protects your business, you're really happy you did it. Just like the people that would have died of a heart attack that didn't. I promise you, they may not know it because they'll have to wait to get to heaven when God tells them you would have died if you didn't fucking stop eating those cheeseburgers. But they will be happy when they get to heaven and realize they lived for 20 more years because they changed their health. when you're like 15, 16, like you don't realize that you're not even born yet. Like they literally are sitting there thinking they're getting close to having to have their shit figured out. Kids, I got a big one for you. You know how your parents and teachers are telling you like, you gotta get fucking focused, you gotta figure out your shit? You're not gonna believe this, it's really fucking funny. None of them have their shit figured out. None. So what I would tell them is, and I would tell this to a lot of people in this room, especially looking at the 20, 30, and 40-year-old, 50, 60-year-old faces, we have such a bad relationship with time. It's a big passion of mine. I know that people that follow me here know how much I pound this. With modern medicine, do you know that they're gonna live to 130?
Yeah.
Like real shit. Like, I don't know if anyone's paying attention to what's going on. It's crazy. Modern medicine is moving fast. We're figuring out a ton of shit. Like people, like literally if you're 12, 14, 15, 16, $110, $115, $120, $130, for real. And before you're like, nah, just do your homework. Look at what's been happening. 85, are you kidding me? If somebody lived to 60, in the 1970s, they were like, you fucking made it. So what I would tell them is, and I would tell a lot of you, and this goes back to like, this is gonna be a fun one because I'll tell them and then I'm gonna you. For them, they need to be high risk.
Yeah.
They need to follow their actual dream, actually. They need to mitigate regret. You know what is really hurting for a lot of people in here? The shit they didn't do at 20 and 30 that they wanted to. Right? Because they thought they were supposed to, or their mommy made them do it, or society told us. I get it. Shit. When I was a kid, like entrepreneurship wasn't even a thing. At 14, 15, 16, everyone told me, besides my mom, that I was gonna be a loser because I got D's and F's. Kids, I got D's and F's. Like, you know, like, we didn't have you know who Garyvee is online? Besides trying to make my mom proud? He's the person I wish existed for me when I was 16.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
Which is why I talk about the bullshit of Nike. Like I needed someone to look up to. There's too many people that say win at all costs, kill everybody, fuck you. I don't believe in that shit. I believe there's two ways to build the biggest building in town. One, just have the fucking talent to do it. Or two, like most people, tear down everybody else's building.
Yep.
And so I think about that and I wanna be that role model. I wanna be that person for 15-year-old me if they happen to sit there. But if you're a musician, if you wanna be a stay-at-home dad, if you wanna coach Little League, I don't know what you're about, but whatever it is, at this age, for the next 20 years, nothing but that. And then, if you didn't have the talent, if it didn't bounce your way, if you weren't good enough, if it just didn't click, then at the ripe age of 33, you can go get a regular job.
Yeah.
And for this crew, I wish they knew what 50 is in today's world.
Yeah.
When people are like, it's over. What's over? You're gonna be 30, 40 more, like what, you're just gonna dwell for 30 years? You know, we have a lot of jobs we're putting out there at like, 40 and 50 and people are like, how can you live in New York? They like yell at me. And I'm like, by not living in Manhattan, by not buying $7 Starbucks, by not taking Uber instead of the train. Like, you could do anything. Like, to your point, you decide, you were in a little bit different place. You were in that world, you made you made some money on that exit. You were also in the cocoon of you were in San Francisco cocoon.
Yeah, well now most of our people are in Austin.
Exactly, like you from mentality of St. Louis and Nashville, and you as the person that was living in a cocoon of San Francisco. Like, you can do anything if you're willing to not be entitled, if you're willing to be practical. This is where Americans get caught with immigrants all the time. How can this happen? Very easy. Like, you live humbly as fuck, you save money, and you then deploy that money. It's not super complicated. You did it, I did it, my dad definitely did it, and like, 1 billion fucking people have done it in America over the last 100 years. It's that people are impatient and insecure. And so that's how we did it. And like,
so were you running?
We didn't pay rent for the first 2.5 years of the company.
Were you guys running, you guys were running on a slim bank balance even for a couple of years?
Yes and no. We didn't pay rent. Again, because I bartered, I asked. Like, you know, I already had a little street cred because of my wine business, so I was able to use me a little bit. So that's true.
I just think that when you have like 300 employees, it's like shit. Like
yeah, but by that point, we had, you know, at 300 employees, we were doing, you know, $87 million in revenue. Like, you know, at that point, you're balancing. But yeah, I mean, it's also not, you know what it comes down to, and I'm curious how you think about this, and I hope you've been able to hold on to this because it'll make you unstoppable. I'm also I'm actually secretly excited about a headline in the New York Times that says VaynerMedia lays off half of its staff after the recession, because if I made the wrong decisions of saving, which won't happen, but if I did, I'd still be okay with it. Here's why. I deserve it. I made the mistake. I like being accountable. I'm really into accountability. I really think it needs to get like super cool. Alex, do me a favor, text to Andy K right now and tell him I want it accountable as fuck hoodie made immediately. I want to wear it. See if he can get it to me this afternoon. Accountable as fuck. In the same way, I apologize, I just want to say this, like in the same way that I think kindness and empathy and patience needed to be a bigger part of the formula of entrepreneurship, which is why I've talked about it a lot more, I think accountability, like I just wish that every entrepreneur, back to your point, razor thin margins. What does that mean? You can get caught. If you're okay with getting caught and paying the ramifications, you win. If you're not, as you know, and I've been listening to you on this interview, people creating exits in media land, creating exits that look like it's an exit, you know it wasn't an exit, they sold their assets for a penny on the dollar, but they didn't have the guts to say we shut down, so they sold early, right? People are not willing to be uncomfortable. I'm willing to put my own cash back into VaynerMedia if I fucked up. I'm willing to have to let go of the 10% of worst employees at Vayner if 9 of our clients fire us. Like shit changes, things happen.
I do these exercises and I tell Adam about it all the time. I just do these exercises all the time where I'm like, if this business goes out of business tomorrow, I'll be fine. You know why? Because you will be fine. Right, and so that's what I do that exercise all the time because I remember when we first started, I'm like, man, if this, my personality is so tied up in this, but then now it's like, if we go away tomorrow, I'll be just as happy. And that kind of, like when you protect your downside, that means you have no downside then, and it's only upside. And so that's kind of how we discuss it. I've said it a billion times and I'll say it again. I want to lose everything, have everybody shit on me, say that I was a farce the whole time, see how everybody else was better than me, I was the joke, make fun of all the people that bought into me, all that, and then just rise back up and fucking tell everybody go fuck themselves. Like, I'm into that shit. Yeah, I mean, it's really helpful because it's freeing. It's unbelievably freeing. When I went into my dad's store out of school, we had 8 employees doing $3 million, and 5 years later, we had almost 200 people doing $50 million a year. When I started VaynerMedia, because my dad really never paid me much money. I don't think it's funny for me when people try to razz me, they're like, he inherited. I'm like, motherfucker, I inherited nothing, dick. I built a huge business for my father and left and didn't have anything, which is why I had to start VaynerMedia in a conference room of another company. I promise you if I inherited it, we would have had fucking chairs. So I started VaynerMedia very humbly, and in 14 years, not knowing anything about that world, we built a $350 million business with 2,000 employees. I feel confident that I can speak about scaling. The number one reason, brother, that most people here will not scale to the level that they want to is because they don't love their employees enough. The real answer to the quiz is realizing you work for people, not they're beholden to you because you write their check. The way that employers treat employees when they have big aspirations and it's their company. I'm not talking middle management in a corporation. You're both in fucking jail. I'm talking it's your shit and you want it to be as big as possible. The 2 biggest mistakes people make is they don't invest in people like really. For example, I have 2,000 employees. That's just VaynerX. I have VFriends. I have fucking Vayner Sports. I'm always still helping my dad because that's our relationship with Wine Library and Wine Text. I got the Garyvee brand. I got a pickleball team. I got a ton of shit going on. And yet, if you looked at my calendar, I'll show you right now. Real talk. Watch this. Tomorrow, I promise you, shit. Forget that. Don't look at how many. It's what? It's what in these 15-minute meetings? It's with Paige, Carlin, one-on-one. Destiny, John, one-on-one. Right, Charles, one-on-one. Yeah, one-on-one. 15 minutes. You just don't fucking care about them enough. Wow. And if you don't care about them first, how the fuck do you expect them to care about your shit?
That's number one. Number two, the biggest reason most of you will not get to where you want to get to, promise you, the biggest reason is because you have a business to buy dumb shit.
Yeah.
What ends up happening is you got it going a little bit. You're doing 2 million, $1 million, you got 200,000 in profit, and you take all that shit and buy some shoes. Instead of leaving it, hiring more people and doing 4 million the next year, you're using your business for your lifestyle instead of you building your business. So for me, I don't think I had a salary over $100,000 until almost 40, because my dad definitely didn't pay me shit. And then when we started VaynerMedia, I was already kind of in that mindset. And so I was just reinvesting. VaynerMedia went from 0 to 1.8 to 3. Then I went full-time, 3 to 14, 14 to 27, 27 to 48, 48 to 72. But the way I was able to do that was, along the way, I wasn't trying to buy another house or a fucking boat. I was trying to build a business. And the biggest reason people will not scale here is they don't care about their people at all sometimes, or enough. And they use their business to fund their lifestyle. And they don't build a business, they build a machine of cash to live, which is, by the way, do you. You can do whatever the fuck you want. This is America. But if you're asking me why I see people stay at 2, 3, 4, 5, it has to do with all the shit in their closet that they don't wear.
If you were to build a business today,
Yes.
what would you do differently?
I don't know if I would do anything differently, and more importantly, back to bringing as much value to the audience as possible. I think the thing I think most about is, am I putting myself in a position to succeed, and will this work? And I think if you ask those questions, one of the biggest things that everyone who's listening needs to think about is, do I like this? Am I good at it? Like, why am I doing this? Am I doing, real estate because my other friends say you can make money in real estate? Am I doing cannabis or crypto or something else because it seems like it's hot? Am I doing social media influencer because that seems easy? To me, the reason I don't think about things differently, there's a million things I can do differently on everything I do. VFriends, VaynerX, Wine Library, Garyvee brand, the books. But I don't think about it from the small little things. I think about it from the big things. And I think most people get the big thing wrong. They don't put themselves in a position to succeed. They either are delusional and think they're better at something than they are, which I understand. Like, we all want to hope and dream, and it's okay to go for it. But I do think that too many people struggle with self-awareness. And I do think that building something meaningful, meaning living life on your own 2 feet and not working for someone, which means it's a constant pressure, it's all on you. I do think it requires you enjoying it if you're gonna do it long term, because in the hard days, the fact that you wake up and still want to do it because you like it helps a lot. And when you're just doing it for the money, you're gonna give up more often than not. And so that's how I think about it. It's hard for me to talk about I don't talk about finding why a lot.
No,
right?
You don't. That's
I really don't. Yeah, I really don't. It's because I don't think I have a great point of view on it, because for me it was so natural. It was so early. I mean, I genuinely don't remember a time where I didn't want to be a businessman, And so for me, it came very early. But I do talk about tasting different things. I do talk a lot about taking advantage of your 20s and 30s. I do talk about, even in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, understanding it's not quote unquote over, that there is opportunities. But I think one thing that I think you have, this is a strength of yours if I could watch it from afar. I think people say no too much and don't say maybe enough. And I think I've been becoming more and more passionate about the concept of maybe. I'm in maybe all the time. Most things become no, but many things do become yes. And I do think that that's something that people need to think about.
Yes.
AI, no, that's going to be bad. It's going to take jobs, without ever spending 10 hours of research. The blockchain, no, especially now. Oh, NFTs were bad. No. Do you actually understand? Or TikTok, well, I missed it. It's too late. Well, actually, it's not. The way TikTok's built is it's based on the individual post, and starting tomorrow is just as viable as starting 2 years ago. And so I think that people say no. And so I think for the people listening, trying to find their why, if it didn't come natural to you, there's people that wake up and at 6 years old, they want to be a stay-at-home mother or father. At 6 years old, they want to be a teacher. At 6 years old, they want to be a firefighter. At 6 years old, they want to be a doctor. At 6 years old, they want to be an entrepreneur. But for a lot of people, it's not that easy. It doesn't come that natural. And I do think that people need to keep pushing themselves. Take a pottery class. Go to a concert of a different style of music. People don't make themselves uncomfortable, or they're not curious enough, or they're not willing to, try out of fear. And I think about that a lot.
Yeah.
When did you decide to build, and why, your personal brand instead of focusing on other people's brands? So how did you decide to just put all your eggs in this basket as opposed to kind of putting your eggs in a bunch of different baskets?
For me, it's because I'm actually a business operator. I built a big wine retail and e-commerce business before I became Garyvee. I mean, don't forget, very different than you guys and most of people's tracks now. I was 30 years old and had built a business before I ever made my first video. I didn't grow up in this generation.
Wow.
If I did, I probably would have. We'd probably be laughing right now and showing videos of baseball card kid, Gary, it's like a 15-year-old saying, buy the Frank Thomas rookie card. I just didn't grow up in that era. And so for me, I'm the reason I could build VaynerMedia and the reason I don't, just live off of being me. I always say, I'm the CEO of VaynerMedia. I run businesses. I'm a venture capitalist who plays Garyvee at times. I like this. I think it's important. It brings opportunity, but it's at the end of the day, in my purest form, I'm a businessman much more than I am a personality. And so what VaynerMedia did for me was it scales my marketing skill set to deploy against people or brands or my own brands. I want to buy brands in the future. So that's kind of my play on that.
Love it.
Yeah, I think for everybody, you need to really think about how you want to monetize this. Are you going to deploy it against a product? I had a deal from Target and CAA to do a wine glass that I probably would have been millions of dollars on. It would have been in every Target store. It would have been the big wine glass. It would have been the product this season. I didn't feel like I could vig the outcome. And let me break this down. This is gonna be the most valuable part of things. The place where you wanna make your money is the place where you think you have the most control, not where you can make the most money.
That's great.
And it's something that I haven't really talked about, so I'm glad, I feel like we got to something.
We've kind of been battling that on the blog.
Can you elaborate on
Keep
this?
going.
Okay.
Books are an interesting place that I play in. It's one of the places I monetize because I can control it. I sell the books, not HarperCollins, not Amazon, not Barnes & Nobles, me. I can dictate it. Doing a sponsorship deal with a wine glass, at that point, I wasn't big enough to feel that I was gonna drive thousands, if not tens of thousands of people into Target to buy it. Maybe 1,000, maybe 3,000, but not enough for Target to care if that was the only people that bought it. So what you wanna do is always set yourself up in a place where the outcome is impressive to whoever you collaborate with or the market. Right? So if you can sell your own music direct to consumer digitally and you get 1 million downloads and you did it, well now you have leverage. And so everything's about leverage. And what happens is too many people take the short-term money and what happens is then there's a result. There's too many, for example, I won't call them out because I don't like negativity, but there's 12 to 15 social media experts who get paid to speak and get paid to consult, whose books sold 2,000-3,000 copies. If you're so good at social media marketing, then wouldn't have you done that to sell your book? And so these conversations are happening behind the scenes, not publicly. I won't throw them out like other people, but there's people not hiring them or they have them as a C-class citizen because they're like, well, look at their book scan numbers. I think I run on requirement and intuition. I have a lot of responsibilities. So we're now, because I was a little bit late this morning, we're a couple of minutes over. There's a call going on right now with Beat Friends and a collaborator that's very important.
Yes.
I'm 3 minutes late, but I felt that because I was a little bit late this morning and you came all the way out here, that I didn't want to cut our time short. These are decisions that are happening every second, especially for someone as busy as I am. I have 3 full-time admins. I have 2 chief of staffs. I think what I do well is I don't let meetings run long. I talk about that a lot.
I know.
1-hour meetings could be 30-minute meetings could be 15. I think I put my money where my mouth is. Most people don't hire 3 admins. And so they get the results of 2 admins or 1 admin. The biggest mistake I think a lot of people make, and don't forget, I did my own admin work for 10 years.
Of course.
Excuse me, 1998. I did my own admin for 13 years. So I understand what it's like when people hear me, they're like, I can't afford it. I'm like, I know, I did that for 13 years. But there was a point where I realized, wait a minute, it's not good for me to be doing this. This is a lot of time I'm putting into this. I'm getting busier. And so I think a lot of entrepreneurs or founders don't get admins fast enough. And then they don't trust admins.
That's a big one.
And so I think they'd rather buy nice clothes or take a trip or buy a nicer car or a better laptop, and they're not investing in themselves, and their time is very important. It's their biggest value. I can make more money, but I can't make more time. And I think about that a lot. Content on the internet, and I'm sure we have plenty of feelings about that. I know how people feel about it, especially in times of conflict like we're in now. How many people here have kids under 18? You've got all sorts of opinions and feelings about it, right? But in the context of your business, the attention that you need to start providing to this platform is very high. There's a direct correlation of how real it is for you to double your business, directly correlated to how much output you put out on social media. This organization itself changed the way they marketed after I spoke here 4 years ago. And it's been good. I think we should learn from that. What really gets me fascinated about this is you can have opinions about it, and a lot of people here have opinions about doing social media marketing, but have never done it. You've said no before you started. I promise you that if you focus on 2 specific platforms in the short term, in my opinion, for this industry, LinkedIn number 1, YouTube Shorts number 2. Okay? Let me tell you why I said YouTube Shorts, and I saw some faces. YouTube Shorts acts in a lot of ways like TikTok, has elements of Instagram, but unlike TikTok and Instagram, YouTube is a search engine. The number 2 search engine in the world is YouTube. Number 1 is Google, for people that can read, and number 2 is for people like me. When I'm really researching, if I'm going deeper, now I'm using ChatGPT. I mean, AI makes search look like the yellow pages, but we'll get to that another time. But YouTube is the visual and the audio, and that's how I learn. If you were to put out content on LinkedIn and YouTube that was to help people that hire you without the expectation of them hiring you in the content you make, you will be flabbergasted how much your business can grow. Now, nobody got here by accident, so you put in work to be here. The problem is with social media is most people don't realize how much work it is, and when they've gone, they stop because it's real work. My point of view is that you waste 4 hours a day on dumb stuff anyway, and so if you reallocated 2 of those 4 hours to actually getting good at this, you could have the things you want. But that's just gonna be up to what you decide to do. It's kind of like getting into better physical health. It's not super complicated. You've got to get your protein ratios better than your sugar and carbs. Don't eat crap, go to the gym. Like, everybody here knows how to be in better physical shape, but it's hard. Same with this. But it is a remarkable time to be in the B2B industry. To have, when Facebook and Twitter were happening back when I was really going at it, it was tough to come to B2B conferences and know that they couldn't take advantage of it the way I could do with B2C, right? Nobody was crushing events doing hardcore Twitter and Facebook in 2012, 13, 14. LinkedIn is a monster. The consumption is huge, and people are discovering businesses to do business with heavy. Not to mention, How many people here have specific targets? Meaning there are specific companies or specific events that you would like to start servicing. Raise your hands. Epic. So, LinkedIn. Do you know that I run ads against employees of companies I want to do business with and have a stunning hit rate on it? The fact that you can run ads, meaning you make a piece of content, it goes organic and you see that it does well. And then you could take it and add money to it and spend $500, $200, $300 to run against targeting employees of the hands that you just raised. That is staggering. And before you ask me how, let me tell you how you do everything. There's a website. I'll spell it out for you. G-O-O-G. So as you're sitting here and be like, okay, what the fuck did he just say I want to try? You literally go to Google, it's this site, you've heard of it. You type in, how do I run LinkedIn ads? Enter, and then it shows up. This is not a game of you don't know how to do it. This is a game of you chose not to do it. My belief is that every single company in this room should be posting on LinkedIn 3 times a day. Just LinkedIn, 3 times a day. There's a good chance that more than half this room has never posted on LinkedIn. And it's probably higher than 50%. So let me tell you what I'm referring to. I believe that this is the most important device on earth for business. I also know that the majority of our attention, which to remind everybody how you sell shit, you need someone's attention, you tell them and then they decide if they want to buy it or not. That for every person in this room, the only currency that they need to be chasing on a day-to-day basis is the attention of potential decision makers for their business. Attention is the thing I've been chasing my whole life, even when I started in Edison, New Jersey. My first business was a lemonade stand. I had this epiphany on stage, similar to that weird thing I just did there with trying to remember. I actually, in the middle of my speech, stopped 10, 12 years ago, early in my speaking career, and realized that I was very weird with my lemonade stand. Because I was telling a story about my lemonade and I realized I don't even remember selling any lemonade. And I used to think it was just because it was 100 years ago, but it wasn't. It's because when I sold lemonade, I spent my entire day walking up and down the streets of Oak Tree Road and Tingley Lane in Edison, New Jersey, and literally would sit there and watch cars drive by to try to figure out what tree or what post to put my lemonade stand sign on. I later did that the way I built out my baseball card tables. I would analyze, and then I really changed my dad's business long before I did internet and marketing, just by re-merchandising the store. Just watching every person that walked into the store, where they would go, why would they go there, and I changed the traffic flow and made people walk into the things I wanted to sell them. I was doing this as a teenager. This was not something I learned in college. This was intuitive to me. Today I do it professionally. What I do for a living is I day trade attention. Every day I wake up and I think about what on social media organically can reach people, what can reach people on social media with paid media. For my biggest clients, I convince them and push them to understand why the Super Bowl is the only television ad that's good, because all of you want to watch that commercial. Why banner ads on websites are complete garbage. None of you have clicked one in 100 fucking years. And more importantly, what videos, pictures, and all the science behind the art is required to compete. I can tell you as we sit here today that LinkedIn, for anybody here who's never posted once and never created a business account for your business on LinkedIn, that your first post, if the post is good, and we'll get into that in a minute, can reach tens of thousands of people. It's the business version of TikTok. Many of you at this point have probably been affected by somebody in your life, probably someone quite young, cousin, niece, nephew, someone like that, who literally posted one TikTok and got 1 million views. LinkedIn doesn't have that extreme. It's highly unlikely that anybody here on their first 10 posts just get 1 million views. But it is staggering how many people here within their first 10 posts on LinkedIn can have business development and get inbound for working together or working for an event. For me, I love selling. I love being a salesman. But selling and being a salesman is always the thing I most try not to do. The most interesting thing is to be a marketer and a brander and let the selling come to you. And so when I talk about LinkedIn and started 4 years ago, because I started seeing that it started to act more like Facebook than the LinkedIn that we all grew up with. When I was like, you need to market on LinkedIn, people were like, got it. And what they thought I was saying was go spam people and message them. What I was saying was make content and let it show up in the feed. If you were to start making content, and not every piece of content needs to be a commercial for what you do, though some of it can be. But if you started making content, for example, 5 mistakes people make on their first event. Do you know how much collective wisdom of events there is in this room? Or in your own head from all your years? You know the cliche mistakes, you know how people miss budget, you know where the mistake is, you know what's valuable. Are the flowers a good idea versus not? Could you get away with it or not? You know shit. Here's what I have to say. You're going into a half a decade of growth and you need to be on more offense. Do not, don't put yourself in a bad position, but remember, hiring employees, though you don't want to, it's not like you have a sunk cost, right? You can get out of it if you got caught. Make sure you realize how much of your non-growing is not that you're a perfectionist and want it awesome for your client. It's that you are insecure and egotistical and don't want other people doing shit. Of course people are gonna do it different than you. There's not one person at VaynerMedia of my 2,000 employees that does anything every day the way I would have done it. It's called being a company. It's called being a company. Now, by the way, this is why I asked the questions if you don't want to grow, you're more than welcome to have a project. You're more than welcome to have your thing. But if we're talking business in this room, you need to start hiring and you need to start delegating, you need to start trusting. Because culture, how many people here have more than 10 employees? Raise your hands. So for this group, culture, more than 10. Culture is so interesting to me. When I see the hands that just went up with more than 10, all that I think about is like, where is their relationship graph with those 10? When I think about how I took my dad's store from 6 to 150 in 5 minutes, or how I took Vayner literally from 0 to 2,000 globally, it's because the hour I just spent prior to walking in here, I had 4 one-on-one meetings with employees I'd never met for 15 minutes just to get to know who they are and let them have some sense that they can reach out to me if they have a problem. I have 2,000 employees. I have so many friends who have 10 to 15 employees who really have no connection with their employees. I could not recommend more getting deeper into your business if you have employees and really knowing these people. Your retention of those employees is how I can get you from 10 to 40. 10 to 40 happens because of your relationship with 0 to 10.